If the company you work for used to offer a pension plan, but they're moving to a 401k plan, then here are 3 big questions that you need to make sure to answer. So recently I was working with a client who was going through this scenario right now where their company was going from a pension plan, it was a 401a plan, to a 401k plan, and there were some pretty large decisions that kind of go into that. So I figured I'd make this video that can help out anybody else that could be going through a similar situation. So in order to answer these questions, first let's talk a little bit about what the previous version was like, and then also what the new version that they're going to. So from a pension perspective, usually the employer is the one that is funding it. In this example, it was a 401a plan, so the employer was putting in a set percentage, and the employee did have the option of also adding to this pension plan. But in this scenario, the employer was actually putting in over 20%. So in this example, we're just going to say that they're putting in 20% of the employee's salary. Now in that scenario, that's a pretty good deal for this employee, because saving 20% of your income for retirement is pretty good. It's following some common guidelines. And so from that perspective, the employee didn't really have to contribute any money to the pension. And then also from an investment perspective, the employer is the one that controls all the investments inside of the pension. So now in transitioning from the pension to the 401k plan, then the way that it looks now is that the employer is still putting in a base amount, but it's going to be a smaller base amount. So in our example, we'll say they're putting in 10%. And so in order to fund the 401k, then the employee also has the option of putting in a percentage of their salary to help fund it. And then also based on how much the employee puts into the 401k, then the employer will have a matching contribution as well. So now let's get to the 3 questions that this employee is going to have to answer. So the first question is down here, how much of your salary should you defer into your 401k? And that's going to be dependent on how much savings you already have, when you plan on retiring, and the lifestyle that you're wanting to have whenever you're retiring. So the second thing that you need to answer is what investments do you want to choose inside of your 401k? Remember, in the pension, the employer was the one that made the investment decisions, but in the 401k, then it's up to the employee. Usually by default, the investment that will be chosen is called a target date fund, and that's going to take into account, that's just going to look at the age of the employee and figure out when they turn 65 and create this investment portfolio that's based on that. And then the last big question to answer is what to do with the old pension. Now, some employers, whenever they're moving from one to another, that they still keep the pension around and you could keep money inside of there. But actually in this scenario, they were getting rid of the pension, and everyone has to make the decision of what to do with that money. And so the 2 primary things that you can do is you can move all of that money into the 401k, and so it'll get invested the same way as any new money that you put in. Or the other option is that you roll it into an IRA. So it's not necessarily a straightforward decision between whether you want to move the money from the pension into the 401k versus the IRA. But if you've been working at this company for a while, this amount of money is probably it could potentially be a substantial sum of money. So it's important to understand the pros and cons of each of those. I hope this has helped. If you have any more questions, then feel free to leave questions in the comments or shoot me a message. And thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later.